The story ignites with the raw, chaotic energy of riots tearing through a Parisian suburbs, one of those sprawling housing projects on the edge of the city. We're in Chanteloup-Lavine, but it could be anywhere. The images are a blur of fury and fire, cars overturned and burning, air thick with smoke, and lines of riot police advancing like a single, armored beast. In the aftermath of this storm, the reason for the rage becomes painfully clear. A young man, Abdel Ichaha, has been so brutally beaten while in police custody that he now lies in a coma in an intensive care unit. The anger in the community, already simmering, boils over. From this wreckage, the film zeroes in on the next 24 hours in the lives of three of Abdel's friends. Three young men, adrift in the wake of the storm. First, there's Vinz. He's a young Jewish man, but his faith is in rage. He walks with a coiled energy, a bundle of raw nerves and aggression looking for a target. For Vinz, Abdel's fate isn't just a tragedy. It's a declaration of war. He harbors a venomous, all-consuming hatred for the police, seeing them not as individuals, but as a monolithic symbol of oppression. When he's alone, in the privacy of his bathroom, this rage finds a strange outlet. He stands before the mirror, his reflection staring back, and he transforms. He becomes Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver, his face contorting as he mouths the iconic lines, practicing a toughness he hopes will one day feel real. Then there is Hubert, the thinker, the philosopher of the group. An Afro-French boxer, his body is a weapon, but his mind dreams of peace. His ambition isn't to fight the system but to escape it entirely. He yearns for a life beyond the banlieue, a place where his name isn't a liability and his future isn't predetermined by his postal code. He pours this dream into his boxing. The discipline and focus a stark contrast to the chaos outside. But that dream has been literally reduced to ashes. His boxing gymnasium, his sanctuary, was torched in the riots, leaving him with nothing but a simmering frustration and a side hustle dealing hash to make ends meet. He preaches non-violence, but his fists are clenched, caught in the paradox of wanting to build a future in a place that seems determined to tear everything down. And finally, there's Saïd. A young man of North African descent, Saïd is the group's frantic, wisecracking center of gravity. He's a mediator by necessity, constantly darting between Vinz's explosive temper and Hubert's weary cynicism, trying to deflect their arguments with a joke or a quick change of subject. His restless energy a reflection of their collective stagnation. He acts as the observer, the one who sees the absurdity and the tragedy, trying to keep his two friends from splintering apart, knowing that together is the only way they can stand at all. Their day unfolds in a haze of aimless wandering. They drift through the decaying estate, their movements shadowed by the constant, unnerving presence of police patrols. They find themselves on a rooftop, a brief escape with a view, where a gathering is in full swing. For a moment, there's music, laughter, a sense of community high above the tension on the streets. But the peace is fragile. It shatters the moment the police arrive to break it up. Vinz, unable to let any challenge go unanswered, unleashes a torrent of insults at a plainclothes officer, a small act of defiance that plants a dangerous seed. As they retreat from the scene, Vinz makes a stunning revelation. He unveils a .44 Magnum, a revolver rumored to have been lost by a police officer during the riots. It's heavy, real, and cold in his hands. He tells them his plan, his voice low and determined. If Abdel dies, he will find a cop, any cop, and even the score. Hubert is shocked. He sees the gun not as a tool of justice, but as a one-way ticket to destruction, an escalation that can only lead to more pain. He pleads with Vinz to get rid of it, but his words fall on deaf ears. Vinz, seduced by the weapon's perceived power, secretly keeps it with him. Their fractured friendship leads them to the hospital, a desperate need to see their friend, to witness his state for themselves. But they are met with a blue wall of uniforms. The police block their way, their refusal absolute and dismissive. The confrontation escalates, their frustration and grief spilling over into aggressive shouts. It's Saïd who pays the price. He is singled out and arrested. He is eventually released, not through justice, but through a connection. A police officer who happens to know his older brother. The incident deepens the rift between Vinz and Hubert. Their opposing views on violence and resistance, a philosophical debate until now, have become dangerously real. They part ways in anger, the trio broken. Saïd, loyal and perhaps a little lost, follows Vinz, while Hubert retreats to the quiet of his apartment. They eventually reunite at another gathering, but the air is thick with impending doom. The news of Abdel's condition hangs over them, and the tension snaps when Abdel's own brother, consumed by a thirst for revenge, makes a desperate attempt to murder a police officer. The scene explodes into chaos, another riot in miniature. In the confusion, Vinz and Hubert finds themselves face to face with a riot officer. Gun in hand, his finger on the trigger. Vinz almost does it, but Hubert reacts quickly before he can press the trigger, knocking out the officer. Thanks to Hubert's quick wit, they manage to flee through a boarded-up exit door, running out the building. They board a train to Paris, a desperate attempt to escape from their suffocating world. The gleaming, sophisticated heart of the city feels like another planet. In a stark, sterile public restroom, they have a bizarre encounter that feels like a parable from another world. They meet an old Polish man, his face a roadmap of hardship. He tells them a strange, haunting story about a friend from his time in a gulag, a man named Grunwalski who froze to death in the Siberian wasteland. Why? Because he was too proud, too stubborn to relieve himself in front of his friends near the train. He wandered off for privacy and failed to get back on board in time. He froze to death for nothing. The trio are left speechless, the story's meaning elusive, another piece of incomprehensible strangeness in a day full of it. But stay with us, as this story's about to unravel fast. Like, subscribe, and let us know what you'd do in their place. Their journey through the Parisian evening continues, leading them to the apartment of a flamboyant man named Asterix, who owes Saïd money. The visit quickly spirals out of control. Asterix, high on cocaine and paranoia, turns the situation into a terrifying psychodrama. Seeing Vinz's beautiful magnum, Asterix begins playing Russian roulette, daring Vinz to join him. When Vinz refuses, Asterix slaps him, pushing the humiliation further. Furious, Vinz points his weapon and begins threatening him. Asterix responds in kind, grabbing his own gun from the table. The room snaps into a standoff, with Hubert and Saïd caught between them. In the end, Asterix throws them out, but not before revealing that Vinz's gun was never loaded, twisting the knife and deepening Vinz's humiliation. After leaving the apartment, they are ambushed by sadistic plainclothes officers, the same kind of cops who prey on the vulnerable in the dark corners of the city. Vinz, quick and agile, manages to vanish into the shadows, but Saïd and Hubert aren't so lucky. They are arrested and subjected to hours of casual, systemic cruelty. The officers, safe within the walls of their station, use them as props for their amusement, subjecting them to a barrage of racial slurs and physical abuse, a chilling demonstration of absolute power. By the time they are finally shoved out onto the street, it's late. They've missed the last train home from Saint-Lazare station, leaving them stranded in the hostile city. Homeless for the night, their journey through the city becomes a series of rejections. They are kicked out of an open chic art gallery, and a subsequent attempt to hotwire a car ends in spectacular, almost comical failure. With nowhere else to go, they retreat to a rooftop, a concrete island overlooking the uncaring city. From this vantage point, they spot a group of skinheads on the street below and begin screaming insults, their voices swallowed by the night. Eventually, they descend from their rooftop perch, making their way to the train station in the hope of catching the first train home. It's there, amidst the echoing announcements and flickering television screens, a news broadcast delivers the blow they have been dreading. The words are clinical, impersonal, but they confirm their worst fears. Abdel is dead. In the stunned, heavy silence that follows, Vinz simply vanishes, slipping away without a word. A new panic sets in for Hubert and Saïd as they begin a frantic search for their friend, fearing what he might do now that his vow of revenge has been tragically activated. They find him just outside the station, staring intently at a group of patrolling police officers. His hand is raised as he mimics aiming and shooting at them. Hubert's patience finally snaps. He's tired of Vinz's dangerous games, and to Vinz's surprise, Saïd agrees. Vinz is genuinely shocked, unable to understand what he's done wrong since he didn't actually point the real gun at them. Fed up, Hubert and Saïd turn and walk away, leaving a confused Vinz to follow a short distance behind. As Hubert and Saïd round a dark corner, their earlier actions come back to haunt them. They run straight into the same group of skinheads, who remember them and are eager to settle the score. A fight immediately erupts, brutal and one-sided. Vinz appears, the real magnum now in his hand. The sight of the gun sends the skinheads scattering. He presses the gun to the man's head, the power of life and death in his hands, but it is Hubert who confronts him, not with a plea for mercy, but with a challenge. He dares Vinz to kill the man, not because he wants him to, but because he knows deep down that his friend is not a murderer. He is testing the very soul of the boy who has been playing the gangster all day. And it works. Looking into the terrified eyes of his captive, Vinz sees not an enemy, but a reflection of his own fear. In a moment of profound clarity, he lowers the gun and lets the man go, finally rejecting the cycle of hate he almost embraced. As the first light of dawn paints the sky, the exhausted trio finally makes it back to the suburbs. The night has changed them. The journey has stripped Vinz of his bravado, leaving behind a weary understanding. He hands the gun to Hubert, a symbolic surrender, a transfer of a burden he no longer wants to carry. It feels like an ending. But as Vinz and Saïd turn to go, they are confronted by one last ghost from their long day. The plainclothes officer Vinz had insulted on the rooftop 24 hours earlier. The cop, his own pride wounded, seizes Vinz. Hubert, seeing the danger, rushes back, the gun now in his hand. A twitch, a slip, an accident. The officer's gun discharges. The shot is deafeningly loud in the quiet morning. Vinz collapses, killed instantly. A frozen, terrible silence descends. Hubert and the officer are locked in a standoff. Two men with guns, their faces masks of shock and disbelief. Saïd, caught between them, can only close his eyes, shutting out the impossible sight. The screen goes black. We are left only with Hubert's haunting narration. It's about a society in free fall. On its way down, it keeps telling itself, so far so good, so far so good. But in the end, it's not how you fall that matters, it's how you land. Well, if that left you thinking, good. The next film goes even deeper. Subscribe and stay wired in. We're just warming up.